Check 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mary had a little lamb. Her fleece was white as snow. Anywhere that Mary went, that lamb was sure to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sounds good to me, Jim. Well, I sure am hungry. Did y'all bring your stomachs today?
I did. In person. I know. When I saw you in person, I was like, what do you mean you're in person? I know.
Yeah, we got to-go containers too, in case we don't get a good showing.
Teasing folks. This had to be off flawless. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it over. I'm gonna make it over for my wellness.
There you go, for your wellness.
Should I give it a couple more minutes for people to
I hope so. I hope this isn't the only group. Not that this won't be a lively enough bunch, but.
that long? I like how you cut it. It's very tequila shot right now.
He's like a smiley.
Listen, just because I'm experienced in that art.
Just because I'm Latina doesn't mean I like tequila.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's the best.
Keto.
Es lo mejor.
Keto. We're a big fan of
Yeah, we figured out we go way back. She used to give me my running start clothes.
I'm well connected.
We used to have the bar.
And she said that too. Was today or something?
Next Wednesday.
Next. You said next week. I thought you said
And the
Yes, the last.
Probably be around the kitchen all day long. One time I was cooking my Pakistan and I ran to the
gas station. He's like, you got off work? And then he's like, you smoke. And I was like,
Alright, I'm just gonna like wing the speech this time versus barbecue, so I probably smell like much.
That's fine.
just know when I opened my fridge this morning. Okay, you're gonna be teaching me something because I have yet to purchase that because it's intimidating.
Really? It's so easy?
I don't know. I think when I watch the videos, the steam scares me.
Oh, yeah. The passive pressure cooking.
Yeah, but then
Mhm.
also juicing used to scare me, and then when I do it,
Well, this one's easy because you can make lentil soup in like less than 10 minutes. Because lentils, you usually need to soak them and then cook them for a long time. So with this, this has a saute feature.
so how long is this gonna take?
The full recipe is only gonna, this doesn't have a meat on it. The full recipe, this one will probably be done in 10 to 12 minutes. But we'll demonstrate it. And the reason why I like to use this too, because it has a saute feature. So it's not just pressure cooking, so you can saute in here.
Is that the Ninja Beauty?
It's just an Instant Pot. I mean, they're all very similar.
I got the Ninja Beauty.
Pressure cooking,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love the saute in here.
That's what we were just chatting about, the saute feature on
Ninja
this.
collector?
Collector?
My mom's a collector.
They're big. They're huge.
Yeah, but she's a collector. I go over there, I'm like, okay, I'm coming to prep my ice cream. Because she never uses it.
The creamy?
Yeah, she
Oh.
has the creamy one. She
Yeah,
has
they get too
everything.
specific.
Yeah.
They either have like everything or it's too specific.
Yeah, so I have all her ninjas now. She went and got all the,
The combo.
Just don't have enough counter space for all those appliances.
The one is it's only a 6.5 and it's like this big.
Mm-hmm.
oh no, my mom, now she has the wire racks, so it's all professional. And she got rid of all her pots and pans, and this lady came. For Christmas, my dad bought her all these like stainless steel stuff. So I'm like, your
Nice.
house is looking like my job.
Right?
But yeah, she's always cooking for a lot of people, so makes sense. Then she does cook.
Was that?
So like shallow birds,
Popped up saying we have people.
they're very shallow, so like those
Yeah,
are
it's all good.
that they like
I,
roast.
I usually have some in my trunk, and I do not in this car.
Or broiled garlic. Like pizza.
Should we get started then? I guess there's other people like.
Oh, okay. Yes, but of course. We usually get started at like 4:10, 4:15.
I'm ready. You ready for us?
All right, Jim.
Well, no, since you have lunch now.
Hey, Malcolm. Go ahead and sign in and then grab a recipe.
Arroz caldo.
Gabby and
Arroz caldo. Arroz caldo. Arroz caldo.
you need to go down a
Arroz.
little bit and you just switch down and Jim needs to switch up. Because I can't see any of your faces, all I can see is from like here up.
Oh, like this.
Because it's supposed to be on the food.
Oh.
Just not supposed to be like,
Or if we go closer.
no, that's worse.
Hi.
No, I still can hear up on Gabby.
Jim, can you?
Oh,
go
they're
to
just
the camera
finishing?
a little bit?
Oh, so we have to do that.
I thought there's like meetings back to back today.
Yeah, keep going back if you're gonna do it that way.
Can you see us better? Probably like this
Okay,
away.
now I can see.
Oh, I see. So it's probably this
Okay.
in front of the cooking board.
Hello, all online. Thank you so much for joining us. And in person, thank you all for joining us. We are going to be doing our 5th cooking demonstration, our 2nd live one. Woo woo! So those who are in the studio audience get to test taste afterwards. And then I just want to say thank you so much for Jim and Theodore, Child Development Center, for letting us still use their kitchen and cooking and everything. And then we have Gabby joining us here today, along with Chef Kirby. And I'm going to let Kirby take it over.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And a round of applause for our wellness committee and our planning group. So thank you so much for being here. We are a small but mighty group, and hopefully we have people joining us in the live stream. As Andrea said, my name is Herbie. I also go by Chef Herbie, and I'm also here joined by Chef Gabby, who is the newest chef in our child development centers. So we're super happy to have her, and she's going to be carrying on a great tradition over in the child development center, carrying on with some of the great food products that we have there, and you'll hopefully be seeing her in these upcoming culinary demonstrations. But as Andrea said, this is our 5th culinary demonstration, as you can believe it. So we've already been through, what do we do? We've done yellow curry, we've done fried rice, we've done Greek gyros, and our last food sampling was empanadas. We did beef empanadas, Argentinian empanadas. So today we're gonna be doing a fun family recipe. So Gabby, you could just join me here. So today we're gonna be doing this fun family recipe, and most food, as you all know, it kind of stems from culture. And so this one actually came from my wife's family. This is a Filipino arroz caldo, which is basically just like a chicken and rice soup, but it's adapted. So in the Filipino culture, this is really one of those foods that is used a lot for an immunity boost. It's loaded with tons of things that provide great antioxidants, such as the ginger and the garlic and the onions, and those are all great antioxidant boosting ingredients, but they also help to increase immune response and reduce cardiovascular disease. And if you didn't know, onions also help to mitigate against cancer and any other types of white blood cell issues that you may have. So this is a perfect recipe to do during this time of year when your family may be feeling a little bit down in the doldrums from all of this gray skies that we've been experiencing. But this is one of those recipes that'll keep you healthy and keep you going so that you can get on with your day. So everybody has the recipe that is participating. We have some more up here in case you guys want to grab one of those. This recipe, what I love about it, it's super simple and really quick to prepare. And I also like to batch cook this recipe. So when I do prepare it, I prepare it in a large volume and then I freeze it. So anytime you need to go ahead and prepare a quick dinner, you could just pull it out of the freezer, heat it up, and dinner is already served. So I'm actually going to be doing the food demonstration in my Instant Pot. So does anybody in our audience have an Instant Pot? No, nobody? Okay. Something similar to this, a pressure cooker. So this is a really great appliance to have. Of course, real estate on your kitchen counters is probably at a premium these days with all the appliances we have in our kitchens. But this is something that I guarantee you will not disappoint, especially if you're trying to prepare food for a lot of people in a really short amount of time. So this will allow us to get this recipe cooked and up to temperature. We'll use the sauteing feature to get it going, and then we'll go ahead and pressure cook this. But we also have food that we have prepared in the background. So with the help of some movie magic, we'll be able to get that food out right away. Do we have any questions before we get started? All right. Yes?
Instant Pot and pressure cooker. They two different things, or can you do all of that in a pressure cooker?
Yes, so good question. Instant Pot versus pressure cooker, what is different? So a pressure cooker typically isn't going to provide the saute options and all of the different features that the magic of this device can provide. It will simply just do the pressure cooking element. So if you want to brown something and then pressure cook it, the Instant Pot is definitely your go-to. This is going to provide much more variety with what you can do with this single appliance. To answer your question? All right, awesome. So we will use the pressure cooking option here. Like if any of you make rice at home, we make a lot of rice. This could prepare rice in 10 minutes or less. So if you're used to the traditional 20-minute rice cooking strategy, this can go ahead and cut that time in half, and you never have any issues with soggy rice or dry rice. It works out perfectly. All right, so let's get going. So please bear with me. I am not going to be using any measuring implements for this because I can pretty much do this just straight from the back of my head. But you do have your recipe so that you can refer to that as you're preparing it. And I know we have a beautiful setup here. Our AV is just amazing this afternoon. Thank you so much, Jim. So we're just going to get started. We're sauteing. We're going to get our oil heated up, and then we're going to begin by sauteing our ginger and our garlic with the onion. And so a couple things about the ginger and garlic. How many of you just have a really difficult time with garlic or ginger? Like preparing it, peeling it. Okay, there's so many different strategies to peel it. There's a couple that we were discussing that work really well. I like to just take garlic. Once I peel it off, I'll actually just cut off the root part of the garlic, and then it will leave you with all the just individual cloves. I like to just roll it in my hands to remove all of the husks off of the garlic. Another method is you could put it into a jar and shake the jar, and that'll get off all of the shells. You can also use, I've seen these little silicone tubes that work really well as well. So you could just put the garlic inside and roll it, and it'll just come out and it's super clean. So there's a variety of ways you can get access to the garlic, and the beauty of this recipe is once you kind of have the base and the base ingredients, you could switch it up and add different things, or you can even try to cut the garlic and ginger in different ways. Sometimes I'll mince it, or sometimes I'll use a cheese grater and I'll grate it. Sometimes I'll cut it into long, thin slices, like using a potato peeler. So my family just likes to mix it up a little bit. So just to provide a little variety with the same recipe, you can go ahead and experiment with that. But my favorite part of this recipe is the ginger. It smells amazing. If you guys can't already smell the ginger in this room, you are about to smell it in HD. So for those of you who may not know, I recently just transitioned to the office of the foundation, where I've been working with Director Jennifer Walbrecht and the Pierce College Foundation. And so I left the Child Development Centers just in December. And so it has been an awesome journey thus far, but as you all know, the love of cooking and my passion for cooking is not going anywhere, especially since I have 2 teenage children that eat a whole lot of food. I don't know if it's fair enough to call them children, but but it's been a super fun journey so far, and just nothing but support from our Pierce family as I've transitioned into my new role in the foundation, and we're doing some great work there. Some events in the upcoming, so we do have our Distinguished Alumni event coming up. So if any of you know of any distinguished alumni who represent our Pierce family, please go check out our website and make a nomination for any Pierce College Distinguished Alumni so that they can be recognized at our upcoming event here in May.
Would you be able to use, I know they sell garlic already minced in a jar. How about the ginger paste?
Okay, great question. I love that we have Gabby up here as part of our audience. So the question is, can we use pre-minced garlic, or could we buy ginger paste or any of those ingredients? And my answer would be yes, but with a slight hesitation. You are not going to be getting it at its freshest state when you get it in those jars, so you're actually going to lose a lot of the antioxidants. I also am not a fan of plastic products, so when you have it packaged in plastic, there's also a fear that there may be some microplastics that are getting incorporated into the recipe. So I always am going to defer to going with anything that is fresh by default, but yes, understanding that we are all busy and we all got other lives and sometimes you don't feel like mincing garlic, you can definitely use that as an alternative. One of my favorite alternatives that I would use is Trader Joe's. Anybody a Trader Joe's fan? Yeah, many of us. I wish there was one closer over here. But Trader Joe's has these amazing frozen garlic squares. So you could buy them in the freezer section, and it's a package of, I think, 24 different little cloves of garlic, and it's already all minced, and it's frozen. So in my opinion, that's still, once you freeze something, it's going to retain all of its nutrients at that point. So I would definitely go with something like that. And once you buy those, you can actually reuse them. So you can mince your own garlic and then fill those up, and then you have your own frozen garlic or ginger. So yes, and that is how the magic of food service. We do a lot of what's called batch cooking, so just preparing things in large batches so that it can be used at a later date. So those are strategies that, we were never really taught to use in our own homes and in our own personal lives, but things that could definitely help to make food prep that much more of a breeze. I'm gonna add a little bit more olive oil here. Okay, so we're just gonna glaze the pan here a bit until our onions start to get a little bit translucent, so we're not gonna wait until they're all the way brown. We just want them to release some of those sugars so that we'll get the nice, bold, caramelized flavor in this soup stock. Any other questions at this point? Any questions from our studio audience? How many people do we have on the stream? All right, that's good. Okay, I'm sure everybody will come through as soon as food begins to get served.
So this isn't hot right here?
Which part?
Like I saw you put the actual pot.
The pot here is a little bit warm,
Okay.
but it's insulated, so the heating element is just on the bottom. So there will be some heat that's dispersed throughout the pan, but it's not really that hot. Nothing crazy hot, yeah. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and add our chicken. Put those over to the side, please. Thank you. I'm loving all the... Great question. So the question was, are we using chicken thighs or chicken breast? And so the answer is chicken thighs. Any guesses why we're using chicken thighs in this case? Anybody? What's that? The fat content? Yes, you are absolutely right. You said that with a little trepidation, like you.
Because we did trim the fat off. We did trim the fat. It was really excessive fat. So we trimmed
Yeah. So you could definitely make this with the chicken breast, but when I'm making soups, just having more of that fat in the recipe, you're definitely going to get a little bit more of the saturated fat, and it does cook a little bit better, in my opinion, when you're making a soup. So yes, we are using chicken thighs for the purpose of this recipe. So as we cook it down, we'll get a little bit more fats coming out of the meat, which is going to give us a little bit more of a well-rounded flavor, in my opinion. And then when I do chicken breast, I like to chop it up like pretty finely, and then I won't cook it as much because we don't want it to get too tough or stringy as we're preparing the recipe. Could you use drumsticks?
Because this reminds me of chicken tinola, which is a Filipino dish. But it's like soup, and and you add green papaya, and it's macaroni. So it's the same other ingredients. No,
I have never heard of that recipe, but it sounds amazing. So yes, and going back to my previous comment, absolutely, why not do chicken? You could definitely do that. It reminds me of another Filipino dish, which is adobo, chicken adobo, which is made with chicken thighs as well, but sometimes I will do it with drumsticks. And that one is more of a soy sauce and vinegar base with black peppercorns, and some brown sugar, which is amazing. Put that as a note, Andrea. Maybe we could do that one in the future. Yeah, but that could be a good one. Yeah, that could be a good recipe, because once you're finished with the recipe.
Soy sauce today, but fish sauce is kind of strong.
Yeah, it is.
Acquired
We're gonna
taste.
go with the soy sauce today, but yes, the fish sauce is definitely
Yeah, I use fish sauce.
one of those fun ingredients. Was anybody surprised when they saw fish sauce as one of the ingredients?
No, but is the fish sauce the traditional way of doing it? Because it's totally different ingredients.
Correct. And it is definitely a different smell when you're preparing the recipe, but I promise you, it goes away after the cooking process is completed, and it leaves it with just a really unique flavor profile.
But which one's more traditional for this?
The fish sauce is definitely more traditional for this recipe, yeah, but for the adobo, that would be more just soy sauce. So you would and of course, you can modify it, use a low sodium soy sauce. But fish sauce is also very high in sodium. So those are all considerations you want to make as you're preparing this recipe. I will also sometimes add other veggies, like carrots is a good one to add to this. And we also have some green onions, cilantro, and lime as a garnish. Because similar to other soups, I really like adding as much fresh veg in there as possible. And the onions and cilantro just really pair nicely with this recipe.
Would you have added the carrots with the onions?
Great question. Would I have added the carrots with the onions? Yes, I would have added the carrots actually at the first stage to saute those a little bit more than the onions because, yeah, so those ones are a little bit more firm. My kids never like when I add carrots, though. They say it ruins the soup. Okay, so now we're gonna go, the chicken is almost cooked all the way through, and just to carry this recipe along. So this is one of the areas where you're going to want to adapt your recipe depending on your own preference. So the traditional way that this recipe is prepared, it's more of a porridge. So it's not like a soup broth where you're gonna have a lot of soup. It actually cooks down a lot to where it's gonna be more of a porridge. I don't like it that much that way, so I always add way more broth. So I go more on the side of adding more broth so that there's more of a soup base, obviously because sometimes my kids just want to sip on the broth rather than eating the porridge. And my wife, believe it or not, doesn't really eat rice. So fortunately, the rice is gluten-free, but she's just not a fan of rice. So she's kind of a poor example for a Filipino or an Asian. Like I love to have rice at the ready at any point in time when I'm hungry, and it's a little bit of a battle in the house to have rice. So always looking for other grain options that are gluten-free. So with this one, we're just using just a white long grain rice. I would caution you from using brown rice if you're trying to go the healthy route. It just does not break down as good. Calrose rice could work? Yeah, absolutely. Calrose rice could work. Any type of white rice. Calrose is more of a short grain, but that definitely works in this recipe. Yeah, jasmine rice. Jasmine rice doesn't swell up and like break down as much, but jasmine rice it works well. So as you can see here, now all of our ingredients are combined. And that is pretty much it. So we let this simmer down just a little bit longer, add some soy sauce, black pepper, and then we are going to put in our broth. Yeah, well, as you know, when I make this recipe at least once to twice a month. And really as you can see, we're not really using much salt or anything. I mean, most of the sodium is coming from the broth itself. But you're really trying to maximize the flavors from the garlic and the ginger and the onions. I mean, this antioxidant stew is really what you're going for. So you don't have to kill it with too much other stuff. Sometimes I'll get a little fancy and I'll pre-marinate the chicken, like with a little bit of cornstarch and maybe some Italian seasoning, or I think I've used it before in our recipe cooking. One of my favorite all-time ingredients to use is the Costco organic no salt seasoning. Any of you fans of that one? It comes in a tub like this. It's just called organic no salt seasoning, and it's just a good blend of seasonings, including garlic and paprika and all kinds of good stuff in there, and it has no salt. So you can pre-marinate that before with the chicken, and then when you cook it up, it'll just add a little bit more dynamic flavor in there, depending on your palate.
Smell the soy sauce. This is where it would be fishy.
Yes, so you would be smelling fish sauce right now, but now we're smelling soy sauce. Alrighty. So one of these is 4 cups. And so this recipe calls for 4 to 8 cups. So we're gonna go ahead and put in 8 cups, and then we will put it on our pressure cook feature. And we'll check that in a bit, and then in the meantime, we'll go ahead and prep another sample bowl over here so that we can get into our tasting. Any other questions at this stage in the cooking process?
Is the porridge consistency the reason you didn't wash the rice?
Correct. Yes, so that is one of those things that you, in most times when you're preparing rice to get rid of the extra starch, you would wash it and get all of that starch off. But yes, we are going for a full porridge soup here.
What happens if you did rinse it? Would it be
The outcome of the recipe isn't going to be, it's not a make or break. Yeah, so you wouldn't really have tremendously different results. It would be a little less porridgey if you did wash it, but ain't nobody got time for that. You, you guys can adapt yours and come and tell me how your recipe came out and see what the different results are like.
You talked about that other spice from Costco. Do you still put the cloves and ginger in there with it too?
Yep, so that would just be an additional step that you can take if you want to pre-marinate the meat, because we didn't do anything with the meat, no salt or pepper or anything. But like I was saying, you could just do a slurry of a little bit of that organic no salt seasoning with a little bit of cornstarch, and the cornstarch is just going to help to thicken up the broth as well. So that's just if you just want to make it a little bit more dynamic, add some different flavors. Like sometimes I like to add paprika into this one just to give it a little bit more of that pepper profile. Yeah, I think we did add a little bit of Italian seasoning in this one with the chicken, so you guys will get to taste that. Okay, so on this, we're gonna put this to sealing. We're only gonna cook this for about 7 minutes. And that is pretty much it. So we'll set this for 7 minutes, and as soon as it's preheated, we'll go into the cooking stage. It is on sealing right now, so that is all good. Get these guys over here. Do you want to grab a bowl for me, please, Gabby? Oh, look at you. You're already on top of it. Just trying to get this for our studio audience so they can see our... Okay, this one is contaminated. Okay, so this is the recipe that was pre-prepared earlier. As you can see, this is got a lot of broth in here, but it still is somewhat porridgey. Can you guys see the texture, consistency of this? So it's been cooked down to where you can see all of the rice has expanded fully, but we still have a good mix of broth in here. But you can also see the color of the broth too because of the starch in the rice. It's made it more white. So the serving suggestion for this recipe is just going to include dishing out some soup and then adding your toppings. So I'm a huge fan of cilantro, if you all don't know that by now. So cilantro, green onions, and a little bit of lime. Thank you. And so this is the completed recipe with your Filipino arroz caldo. So I have to try this to make sure it's edible. I know, and I didn't have a proper lunch today. I'm like
I'm definitely gonna
off
let
of
the
a
kids try this.
protein bar right now. Oh yeah, I can feel healthier already. The ginger profile. How many of you all like ginger? Big fans of ginger? Yes, I love it. I even love crystallized ginger candy, all of it. This is fantastic. Okay, well, if we don't have any questions about the recipe or any of the modifications that we made to it. So again, based on the recipe, if you were to follow this per the instructions, you're definitely going to end up with something that is a much thicker consistency than this. So we did, with this specific recipe, we did, instead of 8 cups of broth with this 1.5 cup ratio of rice, we did about 16 cups, so we did about twice as much. But you can also reduce the amount of rice and then just add some over the cooking period. So if you're finding that you want it to be a little bit more porridgey, you can go ahead and always add more rice, or you can add more broth as you're preparing it. You just have to be careful as it relates to the ginger and the garlic ratios, because otherwise if you just keep adding more broth and rice, you're obviously going to lose the power of all of those beautiful antioxidants that we have mixed in. So if we don't have any questions, I think it's time to eat. Oh, yes, Anjali.
So with the one that's pre-made, is that one also with the soy sauce and not the fish sauce?
Correct.
Okay. And
Yes.
then, okay, and then.
And lower sodium one.
Oh,
Use the
okay,
lower sodium.
nice. And then, you mentioned maybe putting paprika in it, and I'm sure once I taste it, then I'll know what the answer would be, but what paprika would you suggest? Like a sweet or a smoky or a?
Yeah, I like the smoky. Just go with that savory profile. I like it. I just find it balances the garlic out really nicely when I use it. But that was something that I would also put on the chicken too before. So rather than just throwing it in the soup, it actually helps to provide, like if you pre-season the chicken, it's going to give you a much more balanced flavor profile. But I found I learned this recipe from my wife's great grandmother, who just kind of throws everything in the pot. They don't really do much beforehand. It's kind of like, oh, well, we have some chicken in the pot. We're going to add some rice and add a little bit of this and add a little bit of that. So her recipe always came out a little bit differently. And so I guess I kind of just still follow that methodology. So it's like trying something new and seeing what happens. Hence the carrots that are wildly popular within my family. Yes, Chayo.
Okay, so this is somewhat similar to Mexican dish, pollo. But, so here, I know it's 7 minutes in the crock pot, or in the Instapot, and here it says at 40 minutes to cook. I mean, rice doesn't usually take that long to cook, so is it only if you have it in much more liquid form? I'm just trying to...
Yeah, so the longer you cook this recipe, it just basically explodes the rice and the rice starts disintegrating, which ultimately leads to that porridge kind of texture for the soup. Yeah, so whereas like if I was making tortilla soup and I wanted to put rice, I kind of put that in closer to the end of cooking so that it doesn't break down as much. And it's the same thing with this long grain rice. This stuff, it won't hold together for very long. So I think that's kind of the general sentiment in the Filipino culture. They would literally put this on and it would kind of be cooking throughout the day, and they just always add a little bit more broth as they need to. But ultimately you're going to break down the rice entirely. Mm-hmm.
So if you make it in Instapot, that only takes 7 minutes.
Yes.
And then if you want it more liquidy, you just add more.
Yeah, so once this is all set, I'll open it up because we'll have to, like, the cooking time is 7 minutes, but then there's also a venting time. So the pressure that builds up in it, I don't want to release the pressure with all of this equipment around here. Jim would kill me. But yeah, so with that, it's 7 minutes cooking time and then the venting process. So while the pressure is on, it'll stay in there for like another 7 minutes or so. But yeah, like this, you can cook lentil soup in here from like dry lentils in less than 20 minutes. So it's just like a 6-minute cook time, and then there's about 10 to 15 minutes for it to vent, and then it is beautiful, beautiful lentil soup.
And most of these come with the cookbook. But that's
No, I didn't add carrots here. I was just saying, if you want to switch up the recipe, this is really just the recipe base, but you can always add in additional vegetables and see what works well for you and your taste preferences. Because again, the goal of this and why I'm preparing it this time of year is that my kids have been sick like perpetually over the last couple months. So we're just always looking for something that could give us a quick immunity boost. But that's also kind of following our rationale of being able to find meals that are healthy, cheap, and easy to prepare for our families, knowing that we are all busy professionals. But we cannot sacrifice in the fuel we put into our bodies, because that is of the utmost importance.
and it's probably way better than next one.
Yes, and just like anything else, like chili, anything you prepare, the second day is always going to be much better. So that's why sometimes I'll just throw the whole stock pot into the refrigerator for the next day before I start dishing out all of the leftovers to be saved and frozen for a later date.
And I know they sell the molds now for like individual soup sizes.
Hey, I didn't know that. I always just repurpose containers that we have, or I'm thrifty that way. Is that enough? Okay, if you all want to start lining up, you could just make your way up the stage and you can grab a bowl. And then we have all of our finishings over here. Look at some of these things.
She said people were gonna come in throughout the whole thing.
Oh,
It smells good.
Just a reminder, you guys have to see on stage.
oh, thank you. I forgot about our rule. We can make some room around this table over here, or
Yeah, we have chairs. Yeah.
we have some chairs up here we could pull. Well, I think we brought some of those yogurt containers, so I think.
I only want like one bite. I don't want to take a whole bowl because I gotta go back to work.
Okay, well, I can pour you.
Just one little scoop. So you have lime. When I looked it up, it had egg too. Do you ever put egg in it?
Yeah, that is another traditional way to prepare it. I do not put
Looks like
egg in
egg
it.
drop soup kind of.
Because you don't put egg on it.
No, not in this recipe.
Is the lime important then?
It does.
Yes.
Do you squeeze it or just lay it in?
I normally squeeze it in there, but if you just put it in there, you'll definitely get some of that flavor.
I was gonna start handing it out, go, come on over.
Yeah, it's not the same unless you add a little cilantro and green onion. Oh, do you want me to get you one? Do Do you want cilantro and all the other
All
goodies?
goodies. All the goodies, please. Yeah.
I'm sure you.
I know.
Yeah, you can just put it on. Yeah, thank you. No, that's fine. I was gonna put one for you to throw your lime in.
Work around it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
And I actually brought dessert, people. I told Herbie I'm gonna be late, so I brought dessert.
Hey.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Do you want me to make you one? Of course.
When you do the pressure release, do you do automatic or do you let it, I forgot, natural release?
Ideally, you would just let it self-vent by itself. But yeah, when you're in a bind and you need to, I'll open it up when it's safe and away from the equipment.
For sure. Yeah.
No, I think we're done. If there's nothing else.
Yeah, we're good for live stream.
They're only on topping.
Thank you everyone for joining us.
You gotta kill all those things.
That's for darn sure.